Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. Okay, there we go. I think it's there. Okay, gotcha. All right, cool. All right, let's get ready to rock. Let's get ready to rock. I'm calling to the radio station. We get ready to start.
WWE.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing a lot better. I'm doing a lot better.
Okay, that's good to hear. It's always good to hear.
Yes,
So,
sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, man.
I'm bringing you home
All right,
just a second.
all right, gotcha.
Yes, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, that was moving by the power of God here at WDOE. Yes, it's time now for a health fact with the Dr. Brown. Stay tuned.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that great introduction. Good afternoon, listeners. You're locked into WVOE 1590 AM, the voice of Ebony, where your health is our heartbeat. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Brown, president and founder of PressureMD Academy, welcoming you to another enriching session of Health Facts, the show where wisdom meets wellness and knowledge is always in season. So we're here for another exciting show where we get to talk about health and how to keep yourself well. And that's what we do on this show. We talk about what we can do to kind of help you feel better about yourself and how to take care of your health in a better way. Just simple things that you can do at home. All right. So what we're going to talk about today? So today we're going to talk about something that we all like to do, and that is we all like to eat. So a lot of people like to live to eat. We're going to talk about how to eat to live, and we're going to talk about the power of a whole food, plant predominant diet. Okay, we're going to talk about that today, and the reason we're going to talk about that is because you know uh is this could be something that it may be the closest thing medicine has to a superpower. And that superpower is food, the things that we eat every day. And this is a surprising fact for a lot of people. The food we eat every day affects almost every chronic disease in America. We don't think about it, but the food we eat, the everyday choices we make, it affects high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, obesity, all this stuff. And a lot of times people have not heard of this term, whole food, plant predominant diet. And so you may ask the question, okay, well, so Dr. Brown, what does that even mean? Because a lot of times when people hear that plant predominant, they're like, no, 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 no. I'm not becoming vegetarian. I'm not becoming vegan. I am not giving up my barbecue. That's what a lot of people think when that happens. But the truth is that that's not what that means. Okay, we're going to unpack what this lifestyle means, where it came, cover a little bit about where it came from, why it matters, and how small changes can produce big health effects. And so, one of the things we like to say with Pressure MD is that prevention is powerful and lifestyle medicine works. So, what is a whole food plant predominant diet? And this term comes from the field of lifestyle medicine and is one of the six pillars promoted by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So, rather than saying vegetarian or vegan, lifestyle medicine experts we use this term whole food plant predominance because it really emphasizes what you eat more of rather than what you eliminate. Okay, and let's take it. Break these terms down. So, what is whole food? What is this term? Like it sounds interesting. Does it mean get all my food from Whole Foods, the grocery store? No, that's not what it means. What whole food means is choose foods that are close to their natural form. And so this would be eating the apple instead of apple juice, consuming brown rice instead of white rice, oatmeal instead of sugary cereal, beans instead of processed meat substitute. So that's what the whole food is, as close to the natural form as possible. And so, minimally processed, and if you think about it, yeah, for those of us that got a few years behind us, when we drove by McDonald's, and your mom or dad would say we got McDonald's at home, this is basically the whole food concept. So just something that is minimally processed, has fewer ingredients added to it, and that's what a whole food that's the whole food concept. Now, plant predominant, and what that means, it doesn't mean vegetarian, it doesn't mean vegan, it doesn't mean you got to put all the take all the meat off of your plate and that you can never eat meat anymore. That is not what that term means. It means the majority of your food comes from plants, vegetables, fruits, beans, lentils, whole grains, seeds, nuts, things of this nature. It does not necessarily mean zero animal products. So if you think of it as like, 85, 90, 75% of your plate coming from plants, and then, 10 to 15 or 25% coming from animal foods, that would be a plant predominant diet. So say, let's just do, a 25-75. So the 25, you can get you a piece of steak there. And the other 75 could be plants. So part of that might be a salad, part of it might be some fruit. That becomes a whole food plant predominant diet. And it's just that simple. So you're not giving up. So you could put barbecue in there if you want to. Hey, put barbecue in there. That's fine. But we're gonna make sure we supplement a lot of that with plant material, and basically increase the fiber inside of your diet. So that's what that term means. So if we think about it, if you really, research really says that a lot of the world's healthiest populations naturally eat this way. And researchers now are studying these places called blue zones. And this is places where people live the longest. And it just found that diets centered around beans, vegetables, whole fruits, seems to, these people, they seem to eat a lot healthier. And that seems to be a core component of this blue zones where people live the longest. And the medical use of the term came from the work of a couple of physicians, Dean Ornish, Esselstyn Jr., and really, and nowadays, really the lifestyle medicine movement. And it's considered one of the 6 pillars that we have there. From a statistical standpoint, why is this important? So if we think about this, if we look about this, kind of like we said before, that nearly 6 in 10 Americans live with at least one chronic disease. And poor diet is one of the leading contributors to preventable death in the United States. Healthy plant-based diets seem to be associated with results vary, but let's think about a 20% lower risk of cardiovascular death. Plant predominant diets may reduce coronary heart disease risk by approximately 40%. And plant forward eating patterns seem to improve blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, and body weight as well. So you may be asking, why do we need to talk about this? Why is this important? Is it really that big of a deal? And what we need to talk about is what the typical American eats every day. And there's actually a term for this. It's called the standard American diet. So the standard American diet is typically high in sodium, high in sugar, high in saturated fat, high in processed foods. And of course, the processed foods has those other 3 ingredients in there. And the other big thing is this: low in fiber. This is a thing that a lot of people don't talk about. That it just doesn't have a lot of fiber, because the part of the processing, in addition to adding in these things that we're now finding is not so good, it takes out the good stuff. It takes out the fiber, and that fiber is associated with a lot of positive health outcomes. Okay. And, unfortunately, many communities of color have historically faced food deserts, limited grocery access, aggressive marketing of unhealthy foods. Think Takis. Think about what's in your average corner store. They don't have tomatoes and cucumbers in there. they have, there's Takis and there's wrap snacks and all these things that are these processed foods are marketed to communities of color, especially African American. And then there are economic barriers as well. And so some of this stuff is not about willpower. Sometimes, the healthiest choice isn't the easiest choice. And if you combine, the economic aspects along with the marketing, it becomes then after a while, like I said, especially if you grew up. I mean, it's one thing to have it when you grew up. Like I said, some of us that are older, we grew up on regular food, and then, like I said, over time we started taking in some of the processed food. But imagine if you've been eating processed food since you were a kid. Instead of your parents giving you a cucumber or a tomato, they gave you wrap snacks. They gave you Takis. That's what you grew up on. Now this now becomes the food that and like I said, now healthy foods or unprocessed foods really taste different because your culture is a culture that is now consuming processed food. So now we got to get that out of you and get you to take something totally different there. Okay. Poor nutrition, often causes solid damage, and this is one of the things that happens. And a lot of times people feel perfectly fine because remember, a lot of these processed foods have the ingredients that actually make you feel good while you're eating them. There's a reason why once you pop, you can't stop. Okay, they're designed. They have fat, they have sugar. This stuff not only tastes good, but makes your body at the time feel good. But at the same time, as you keep consuming this, blood pressure is rising, blood sugar is rising. Sometimes the kidney function doesn't respond positively to this. You might have some increased cholesterol. And so this is why we always preach that you need to know your numbers, your blood pressure, weight, stuff of nature, so you can monitor this, so that you can monitor your health. And then you can see the difference because I've seen this in clinic where, people that come in with bad numbers, they switch their diet and those numbers get better. So this is a very real thing. So we always gotta think about those. So now, I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about 7 facts that a lot of people don't know about whole food, plant predominant eating. And one is it can lower blood pressure. These plants are rich in potassium, magnesium, and fiber, being that naturally lower in sodium. There's an actual diet called a DASH diet that is for people with high blood pressure. They studied it in people with high blood pressure, and people who ate and in this manner actually lowered their blood pressure with the diet alone. So this is one of the facts. It can lower blood pressure. It can protect your kidneys. Reducing excess animal protein and sodium may decrease stress on the kidneys while helping to control diabetes and hypertension. And like I said, diabetes, hypertension, leading cause of kidney failure. So as you lower the blood sugar, lower the blood pressure, it winds up protecting the kidney. It improves, number 3, it improves diabetes control. So it can help with diabetes control. Whole plant foods release sugar more slowly because of fiber. So the difference between simple sugars or simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates can is really the difference in how quickly your body releases sugar into the bloodstream. And so whole foods have a tendency to slow that release of sugar into the bloodstream, which means fewer blood sugar spikes. Number 4, helps with weight loss because the fiber, and this is one of the reasons why, when you eat a lot of this processed foods, this is why you eat the whole bag of chips. And that is because, when they remove the fiber helps you feel full. There's a satiety mechanism that happens. And so the fiber helps you feel full. So if they take the fiber out, you'll eat more of the product. So when you go to a whole food plant predominant diet, those plants help you to feel full. So you eat a little bit less. And not only that, the fiber in and of itself doesn't have a lot of calories. So now you're consuming fewer calories, you're feeling full, so you got that sense of satiety, and that's helping you with. It's going to help you with your weight loss because one component of weight loss is consuming fewer calories. It's not the only thing, but it is a component of that, and that's consuming fewer calories. Number five, it can lower cholesterol. Yes, so increasing your dietary fiber can help you with your cholesterol. Number one, your a lot of these plants don't really contain cholesterol, and then also they can help with the gut transit and stuff of that nature. So that can help. It can also help with the inflammation, and that chronic inflammation can lead to heart disease, strokes, things of this nature. So you want to lower your inflammation in your body, and then it can help people live longer. And like we said before, in these blue zones, a lot of these populations, not all of them, but a lot of those populations are eating a predominantly plant-based diet, and not necessarily vegetarian or vegan. It's not like they don't eat some animal proteins, but a lot of their diet becomes plant-based. Okay. So we're going to switch gears. So that's some of the facts. Okay. So now we're going to go into another aspect, and we're going to talk about how to convert a standard American diet to something that's more of a plant predominant diet. So let's look at this. Let's look at the standard American breakfast versus a plant predominant breakfast. So the standard American breakfast might be sausage, a biscuit, hash browns, sweet tea. Okay. Plant predominant, this healthier breakfast, oatmeal, blueberries, walnuts, a little cinnamon on there, and some unsweetened tea. And that it's that simple. So it's not like you're not starving yourself to death. You're not starving yourself to death. You are eating. You're going to feel full, but one is going to have, like I said, higher cholesterol, higher calories. The other one is going to be fewer calories, less cholesterol, increased fiber, and these are going to be the things that kind of help you on your health journey. Whether it's losing weight, lower additives that can contribute to higher blood pressure. That's what we can do. So let's talk about a standard American diet, a standard lunch versus a plant predominant lunch. Okay. So a standard lunch, let's just take a look at that. What's the standard lunch? You go to the cafeteria, you go get a cheeseburger, you go get fries, and you get a soda. All right. So let's switch this over to a plant predominant lunch. We're going to eat a black bean burger, salad, fruit, and water. And this is going to be far fewer calories than eating the standard lunch. There's going to be a lot less calories. There's going to be a lot less consumed cholesterol. There's going to be a whole lot more fiber. And like I said, you're not going to be hungry after the day. Like once you eat that plant predominant lunch, you're not going to be hungry. Are you going to feel it as full as a standard lunch? Maybe not, but you also may not have that post lunch crash where a lot of people have. You eat the cheeseburger, fries, and soda. Now you need a nap at 1:45. You got to close your eyes for a second. This plant predominant lunch is a lot less likely to cause you to feel that way. So you not only are saving on the calories, not eating as much of the bad quote unquote bad stuff, but you also may have a little bit more alertness as well. Now let's go to a standard dinner versus a plant predominant dinner. So standard dinner, fried chicken, mac and cheese, white bread. Hey, I'm not going to argue. It tastes good. It tastes good. But there's a lot of, things that are in that standard diet that are not good for those of us that are trying to, live a little healthier. Yeah, lower your risk of chronic disease, or if you have chronic disease, get better control of it. If you're trying to lose a little weight, hey, all the stuff that I just mentioned is very high in calories. Let's switch this over to the plant predominant dinner. Baked salmon or beans. Like I said, don't underestimate the power of beans to be your dinner. Brown rice. Oh, we're talking about a lot of fiber here. Greens and some roasted vegetables. So yet again, you're not skimping. You're not starving. You're not feeling super hungry. you are going to feel full. And one is hey, yeah, I'm going, that mac and cheese. Don't get me wrong, that mac and cheese you live in to eat. But the baked salmon, you're eating to live. So I want, like I say, yeah, sometimes you have to make that choice between whether or not I just gotta have this mac and cheese, or if I'm capable and learn to switch over to this plant predominant diet. Okay, because that's what we need to do in order to eat a little bit better and live a little bit better. And now I always tell people though, don't try to do this all. So for most people, you can't do this all at once. What you might do, we're going to talk about that standard American. So switch the mac and cheese out for some roasted vegetables. Switch the white bread out for brown rice, and do things kind of slowly. For some people, now some people can do it overnight, but some people just need that little extra time. All right. We always got, to touch on kidney and blood pressure. And so as a nephrologist, and this is where I get excited because, we talked about all this, how to eat, but we need to understand, always understand that all this stuff is connected, because the same foods that help your heart help your kidneys. High blood pressure damages tiny blood vessels in the kidneys. Diabetes damages the kidney filters. Whole food, plant predominant eating patterns targets both diseases at the same time. So your food can be your medicine. Your food, what you're consuming, what you're eating, can be your medicine. Would you rather have a salad, or do you want another peel? And that's what you have to think about when you're trying to, like I said, let's go back to that mac and cheese. When you're trying to decide between the mac and cheese and the salad, ask yourself, do you want another peel? Okay. Because the choice, the decision, that decision in can influence whether you get a new pill 6 months later when you go to visit your doctor's office. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're making these choices, because a lot of times these comfort foods, they feel good. That's what you're eating before. That's the way you know to eat. But the way you're eating is going to is going to influence your numbers down 6 months or a year down the line. And so you have to make those choices. So as a kidney doctor, just where I like to really hone in, like I said, these foods that you're switching out can help control the conditions that influence the kidneys. That's what it is. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about we got to talk about practical takeaways. I need you to walk away from this live session, this recording, with some and everybody's listening on the radio, with something you can do today. You ain't got to wait till tomorrow. You want to do this today. So 5 things you can start today. One, you can add one fruit each day. Just add it to your meal. Just go get some blueberries, go get some strawberries, just add it in there. Some raisins, that's dried fruit. Add that in there. 2, you can replace your white bread with whole grain bread. Replace the white bread with whole grain bread. So you can do that as well. Number 3, eat beans twice this week. So you want to start adding beans to your diet. Well, beans have protein and they have fiber. So you can get both of those things with that beans. Beans are power meal. Number 4, make half of your plate vegetables. So got some meat here. All right, I'm gonna put some greens here. I'm gonna put a salad here. Some beans or lentils or something of that nature on there. Garden peas, whatever. Just make half that plate vegetables. Number 5, and this is a real big one for people that are trying to lose weight. Everybody loves the sugary drinks. Everybody loves the soda, the pop, and all these sugary drinks. Those are calories. Those are empty calories. They're just empty calories. That you don't need them. They don't have any real function. They're just empty calories. So one simple thing you can do is to drink water instead of the sugary drinks. Drink water instead of the sugary drinks. So that's one thing that you can do. Okay. So this is kind of, those 5 takeaways where you can start the journey today. You don't even have to wait till later on. You can start that today. Okay. So we want you to take that. All right. So we just want y'all before we leave out here to pause and reflect. What percentage of your plate came from plants yesterday? So if you think about what you ate yesterday, or you know what, it's over lunch. Think about what you're eating and look at your plate now. What are you eating right now for lunch? What percentage of that plate is coming from plants? So look at that. Okay. And then the other thing I want you to think about, can you add one additional vegetable this week? And if you think about it, going and you watch it, type it in there, send a message, see if you can add one additional vegetable. Okay. And then of course, I'm always going to ask you, when was the last time you checked your blood pressure? If it was yesterday, great. If it was 2 years ago, we need to get that checked. Okay. So make sure we get that done as well. So as we kind of wrap up here, because I'm coming to the end of my time, I want to touch base on a few things here, and that is, a couple of myths versus facts. Myths: plant-based diets don't always have enough protein. Ooh, this is a big one. This is a big one right here. Plant-based diets don't have enough protein, because a lot of people think this, but the fact is that beans, lentils, seeds, tofu, whole grains actually provide plenty of protein for most adults. So when you're starting to look, and one day we'll probably go over labels, when you look at the labels, look at the protein content. Yeah, you would be surprised at the number of plants that actually have considerable proteins. And one of the things that a lot of people like to think about, they're like, oh, you can't build strength, you can't get big off of plants. Yeah, the largest land animals eat plants. So it's not like you can't create your proteins and the nutrients you need. The largest land, matter of fact, well, technically the largest animals, period, because they only eat plankton, but I guess it's got some meat, right? But the largest animals have are plant eaters. So don't be fooled into thinking that you can't grow healthily by eating plants. All right. So that's one thing we want you to think about. So, all right. So as we wrap up this show, remember, your genes may load the gun, but their lifestyle often pulls the trigger. Okay. Your genes, that's what you're born with, may load the gun, but your lifestyle often pulls the trigger. Food is one of the few medicines we use multiple times every day. We can choose foods that nourish your body, protect your heart, and preserve your kidneys. So until the next time, know your numbers, take control of your health, and remember your health is your greatest wealth. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for everybody that is listening to WVOE. Thank you for everybody that's watching on live stream right now. Thank you for everybody that's watching the recording as well. And I appreciate you, Dr. Shomo, for watching and for commenting. Appreciate that as well. So until next week, if you like it, if you like what you hear, like, share, follow, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate the time.
And all right, ladies and gentlemen.